Hey guys, it's Matt and Heather with the Joyful Family. We're talking today about affair proofing your marriage.
Yes, and if our marriage is our most prized possession, if I value my wife more than anything else on the earth, then I protect it and I guard it. And one of the most dangerous ways or most devastating ways that we can harm our marriage is affairs. And this is emotional affairs and physical affairs. Emotional affairs are just as catastrophic. Just because you say, well, I didn't sleep with that person doesn't mean that there isn't betrayal and there isn't devastation.
And those sneak in. The moment that you start hiding text or hiding a conversation from your spouse, it's taking it too far. And so that's whenever we have to be quick to nip things as they begin. Like, don't even allow yourself alone with that person if it's a temptation. We have boundaries that we've set in place in our marriage that we just know that what's expected of each other, and it's not that it's in a controlling manner. It's for both of our safety.
Yep. And second Samuel talks about King David and Bathsheba, and it's a really good warning to all of us that good people will find themselves in bad situations if they allow it. And what happened is King David was just looking around and happened to see Bathsheba bathing. And instead of looking away, like he should have done, and walked away, he looked a little bit longer, started thinking about it, started kind of probably fantasizing about it, sent someone to go get Bathsheba, sleeps with her, ends up killing her husband, just all this kind of mess that happened with one step going too far. And I think we have to have that reminder to don't play with fire. It's not worth it. There's not a temptation that I can entertain that's worth the devastation that betrayal would bring Heather. If I love her, why would I hurt her? And there's nothing, no flirtation, nothing is worth that. And so don't
and
play.
use your gift of discernment.
Yep.
God's given us that for a reason. If something feels off or not right, it probably isn't. And so remove yourself from that situation. And so I know that there's been times that, and if your spouse gets a check, I've had a check, that girl, her intentions aren't good with you. And he listened to me, and then it turned around and I was right.
She was right.
And so use that gift of discernment, and then trust your spouse if they're feeling something is off. Like, hey, this relationship feels off. Okay. No relationship is worth costing you your marriage. And so we are always in tune in that with each other.
And this is where respect comes into play, because if I'm trying to control Heather, then every time she talks to a guy, I'm jealous. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about mutual respect to where she knows my heart. I don't try to control her. I don't go through her phone every day. Well, the most amazing thing is she's never given me a reason not to trust her. But because of the respect that we have for each other, if I go up to her and say, hey, I'm concerned this doesn't look right, she listens and she respects that. And she doesn't bristle and push back and say, well, I'm my own person, I can do whatever. No, it's about us. And sometimes the sacrifice of marriage means that you yield out of respect for someone. I may not see what she sees. In that situation she mentioned before, I didn't see the same thing that she saw, but I respected that, and thank God, because it would have gotten very messy.
A little uncomfortable there for a second.
And it's a lot easier to put out fires whenever they're this little versus if you ignore it or you start playing with it or entertain it. And like King David, going back to, he found himself in a huge mess because he entertained something he shouldn't. And I think what the greatest reminder for me is there's parts of my life that are only reserved for Heather. Emotionally, physically, there's parts of me that God intended, needs that I have, that are only to be fulfilled in the context of a marriage. And the moment I look outside of that marriage, that relationship with her, to meet those needs, I've crossed lines. And it happens just one step at a time. It's a text message that goes too far. It's someone walking up and putting their hand on your arm or your shoulder and you allowing it to linger. Or you start thinking about someone in ways that you shouldn't. And it's one step closer. You don't wake up one day in bed with someone and not know how you got there.
Right.
It's a progression of events that you allowed to happen, things that went too far that you left unchecked. And we have to have those safeguards to know, okay, if my spouse walked in right now, would they be comfortable? If my spouse read my text message, would they feel betrayed? If the answer is yes, you've crossed the line.
Right. Absolutely. And Matt and I, we're open books with each other. I have access to his phone, he has access to mine. We know each other's passwords to social media. It's not that I go check it all the time because I don't feel the need to, but if I ever wanted to, I could. And so I think the moment we start hiding those things is whenever we're allowing room for the enemy to come in and wreak havoc in our marriage.
And we've talked to couples that have dealt with this, and this is it's a bold statement, but I'll say it again. There's no reason why you should hide passwords from your spouse. Absolutely not. If I want to be honest and vulnerable with Heather, I need her to be honest and vulnerable with me. That creates intimacy in a relationship. And you can't be vulnerable with someone that you don't trust. If she walks in the room and I hide my phone, or whenever she picks my phone up, I grab it from her, or I wince, or I change my social media passwords, or create another social media account, or
even if there were nothing on there, the very fact that somebody would grab it back away leaves room for all the thoughts to go a thousand directions. And so why open the door for that in your marriage? We just keep things very open, and it works really well for us.
Yeah, and she'll pick up my phone from time to time, and she'll see me texting whatever, and just kind of playfully grab it. She says my phone is boring. It's pretty
so boring.
It's pretty much.
But I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
If you want to check on Texas Rangers details, my phone's got a lot of it on there. I'm a huge baseball fan, and so if it doesn't interest her, but we go out of our way to show each other mutual respect, but to show people around us that I'm not willing to jeopardize what I have with Heather for anyone. When I was working in a corporate environment, I had an employee that was going through a bad marriage situation, and she ended up getting divorced. And she was emotional one day, and we were trying to have a meeting. And it's like, I'm sorry you're going through this. I was compassionate, but I wasn't her shoulder to cry on. I wasn't the one that was going to be the knight in shining armor that was going to be there for her, because that wasn't my role. If I'm anyone's knight in shining armor, it's Heather's. And so I was compassionate. I'm not rude to people, but I'm unwilling to let friendship or not kindness turn into something that's inappropriate. And so she had other friends that she could go to. That wasn't my responsibility. And I think we have to just, it's that gut check to know, okay, this is maybe too far. If Heather was here, would she be okay with the conversation? If she read the message, it's that guarding and protecting what we have. Again, the most prized relationship that I have on this planet is with my wife. If it really, my priorities are God first, spouse second, kids third, that means that leaves no room for infidelity, no room for betrayal. And then we talk a lot with couples that, and actually doing some research on this. I spent some time this week really kind of digging into this. One of the leading causes for infidelity is unmet needs. They surveyed a bunch of people that were on a website that was where people would go to find someone to cheat with. There's been other research that looked at, they identified 8 characteristics that was common with people that had affairs, and one of the most common things was either unmet sexual needs or lack of love in the marriage. And what happens is, first, before we go any further, if you're in a situation where you're not getting your needs met in your relationship, that never excuses infidelity. That never excuses cheating. You can understand how you got there, but you have to own those steps. Because we've had seasons where Heather, we had when the twins were born, or when she was pregnant with the twins, she was on bed rest for maybe 4 months. There are certain seasons whenever you're going through so much stress, and it's either physical ailments or whatever, that you may not be getting your physical needs met in the marriage. You may not be having a deep emotional connection. When we had 4 kids that were 4 and under, that was not a lot of romance going on in our life. We were in survival mode. And so those seasons, it's not an excuse to wander outside of the marriage. What that does is it exemplifies, the Bible says in 1 Corinthians 13 that love is patient. There's some times in a marriage, especially for 22 years, that patience means I need to wait for her to get through whatever she's going through before she can meet my needs. And love means sometimes sacrificing. And so we have to be aware that there will be seasons of life where she can't be everything to me that I would want her to be. and it's not her intention, it's just reality. And so we have to own that, because we had a post this week that went, and people got kind of upset. That was, because they thought we were justifying infidelity, and it's absolutely not. There is no excuse for infidelity.
Correct.
But we also have to realize that if we are consistently unwilling to meet our spouse's needs, we can open the door to infidelity. And the Apostle Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians when he actually tells married couples, not to go more than 2 weeks without having sex, because it can entertain or open the door to temptation. The Bible even talks this is a concern. And so we have to be aware that our spouse has needs. And if we are intentionally not meeting those needs, not because of a physical issue or whatever, but because of a choice, we're playing with fire.
Well, most our human nature is, if somebody's just like a roommate, and your spouse is a roommate and you don't have any connection, any emotional connection, you don't talk, everybody's always on their phones. So there's that human need for connection with humans. And so people are going to go out and find somebody to connect with. And sometimes that leads to things that we don't want it to lead to. And so we have to make sure that our marriage is, that you're connecting, that you're communicating, that you're emotionally, physically, that, because we crave that as humans.
And part of affair proofing your marriage is realizing that your spouse has needs that are different.
Right.
Heather has a need to watch every Christmas Hallmark type movie that comes out. I don't have that need. She has to have a strong emotional connection. The emotional intimacy, for a lot of women, the majority of marriages have experience where the man's sexual needs stronger than the woman's, and the woman's emotional needs stronger than the men.
And sometimes that's flipped.
It is, and that's normal. If that's your marriage, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how you're wired. But she has needs that I don't have. My job isn't to force her to meet all of my needs, or ask her to meet all my needs, or manipulate her to meet all of my needs. My job is to meet her needs and show her love that way. And then in turn, she meets my needs. And so, but I have to respect how God made her different. I can't get upset whenever she doesn't get in the mood that I want just because I snapped my fingers and said, hey, let's go. That's not how she's wired. And I can allow that to frustrate me, or I can allow that to realize, okay, God made her different and I should value that and meet her needs. And whenever when mutual respect happens, it shuts down a lot of frustration and a lot of division, things that entertain temptation. So, encouragement to you, protect your marriage, safeguard it. There is, again, no temptation. There is no flirtation. There's no website. There's nothing is worth sacrificing your marriage.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us. You can check us out on our website at ajoyfulfamily.com. We're a 501c3. If you want to partner with us, our goal is to help marriages live abundant, full lives where you're living with your best friend and your home is a home of refuge and peace for you, for your spouse, for your kids. So partner with us to do that. That is our heartbeat. It's what we love to do. And you can do that at ajoyfulfamily.com/give. We'll talk to y'all soon.